Good morning, Tom. It was a big pleasure to see you last week on the Data Masterclass Europe in Berlin. And one of your keynotes really received a good traction with the audience. And I thought, this ability to ask you a question publicly and directly is great opportunity to a bit deep dive and share more on that keynote. So specifically about the customers and creators of data. I had a similar concept, or I believe it was a similar concept, back in my time at Microsoft, where we felt about data publishers and data consumers, and we used this Amazon marketplace as a kind of analogy where you organize the rules for people to co-work together, and each could become a publisher or a producer of the data, and each could be, a consumer or the customer of the data. And I think it's very driven by the product design and the product thinking of data, and nowadays also for AI. But I think many people are missing this, or they also do not have that perfection of the details which you nail it down in your speech. So could you maybe spend a few minutes here explaining exactly that paradigm of data customers and data creators? Thank you in advance.
Thank you for this question, Aleksejs. It's really easy for people and organizations to say, yeah, customers, and dismiss it and move on. But understanding creators and customers and their relationship to one another is fundamental to all of data quality and data quite generally. So let's start with a typical organization and the work it does. Let's start with marketing. Marketeers try to develop prospects, and they send some of the data associated with those prospects over to sales, which tries to turn those prospects into customers and orders. Some of that data goes on to operations, which tries to deliver those orders. Some goes on to finance, which tries to collect the money and keep the books square. And the data goes to other places as well. A daisy chain of activity, data created in one department feeding the next. Now, if you dig deeply into any department, let's pick sales, what you find is that salespeople spend an inordinate part of their day fixing up the prospect data they're receiving from marketing. It's just not fit for use. And in order to call on prospects and so forth, they have to do a lot of work. You can't really blame marketing for sending over the bad data. After all, they're not getting any feedback that they're doing so. But the reality is that each department, in addition to doing its own work, has to operate what I call a hidden data factory. Work needed to fix up the data so that they can do their jobs. This is where the concept of creators and customers come in. Now, most people don't think about it very often, but it's observably true that they're already customers in the sense that they depend on data created by others to do their job. And they're also creators. Data they create is needed by others so that they can do their job. But neither is acting in that capacity. Now, what we find in department after department, company after company, all over the world, is when people step into those roles. They assume they become better customers. They reach out to creators, explain how they use the data, what's working, what's not. Creators step up and work together to find ways to improve their processes to better meet their customers' needs. When these two steps are taken, quality improves rapidly. It is the only thing that consistently works to improve quality. Now, I don't want to oversell here. There are some extremely tough quality problems that are not that simple, that require more than creators and customers. But a stunning number of them can be resolved quickly and easily by getting people to step into these roles. Thanks again for the question, Aleksejs. I'm going to hold for a second video the discussion of how this concept appears with AI. And it's extremely important there. It appears to me that it will be very difficult for AI to thrive without the introduction of the concepts of customers and creators into the overall AI process.